Travis Hunter should win the Heisman Trophy. And if he keeps playing at the level that he's been playing at, I don't see how you could really vote for anybody else at number one. And for those of you that are new to the Heisman voting, they got over 900 ballots out there, which means that it's diluted and there's a lot of people that have votes that probably shouldn't. But the way that they're asked to do this is rank your top 3 players, 1, 2, and 3, and then they allot points based on where the voters put those players in their rankings, and you get to a final tally. While we're going to continue to have a discussion about who could win the Heisman Trophy not named Travis Hunter, and I will entertain those arguments while continuing to say, show me once one of those players is going both ways and operating at an All-American level on both sides of the ball. Travis Hunter has 60 catches for 757 yards and 8 TDs. He's also got 2 interceptions and a forced fumble. If Pat Schumer and Prime come up with a way for that dude to have a rushing TD and a passing TD, and he gets a pick 6, we're going to see once again a dude doing Shohei Ohtani stuff. Before Shohei Ohtani went 41 for 41, 42 for 42, 45 for 45, 50 for 50, and damn near 60 for 60 in stolen bases and home runs. We ain't never seen nobody do that. And that's the territory that Travis Hunter is operating in. The difference is Travis Hunter's loud about it. And you know what? I'm with him on this because I'm with Reggie Jackson on this, which is it ain't bragging if you can do it. It's just you speaking facts. Now, I find it interesting that at this time, the other players that we're talking about, quarterback Dylan Gabriel at Oregon, the number 1 team in the country with probably the most efficient and deadly passer in the sport today. The other, Cam Ward at Miami, undefeated. Right now, we feel like that is the number 1 team in the ACC, and we're talking about making plays off schedule and making Heisman-like plays and throwing for Heisman-like yards. You're talking about Cam Ward. And then Ashton Genty, who still has a chance to break Barry Sanders' 36-year-old rushing record of 2,628 yards in a single season. And he's yet to record a 300-yard rushing season. I think that Barry had something like 3 during that season because it was bonkers. But the 128 that he had against UNLV is not going to help his case, as it was looking like he was going to have to average 200 yards rushing per game the rest of the way to get a chance to get close, because he's just over 1,200 yards at the halfway mark. Another 1,200 yards gets you to 2,400. He needs a couple 300-yard games. Then we're talking about the MAC championship, so for so on. But by the time we get to the college football playoff, we're not voting on the Heisman anymore. We've already given that award out. I think that voting should also be changed to after the national championship is played, and we have a really good understanding of who really is one of the best players, if not the best player in the sport, because they're probably playing in the national championship game. And that's generally how we have talked about the Heisman Trophy. And who's usually in the national championship game? An SEC team of some kind, if not in the college football playoff. And here recently, a Big Ten team, maybe a Pac-12 team, maybe a Big 12 team, maybe Clemson out of the ACC, right? Or Florida State. I don't want to shade Florida State too hard on that. But I'm looking at the list of not just the players that I think have an argument to win the award, but the argument to make it to New York. And I was taking a look at the data to see, who ranked when in the top 10 of Heisman voting. And that's when you really get to kind of see what people are thinking and where you can get some defensive players into the voting in some places. But I kept thinking none of these players play in the SEC, right? And I think that's also interesting is Travis Hunter could win the Heisman Trophy in a season for which we don't have a finalist among the top 10 in the SEC. So check this out. 2023 LSU's Jaden Daniels wins the Heisman Trophy, and we've got 3 SEC finalists there in the top 10. Jalen Milroe was at 6. Cody Schrader, Missouri tailback, was at 8. In 2022, Pac-12, Caleb Williams wins the Heisman Trophy. And then we got 2 of the 10 finalists from the SEC. Stetson Bennett at Georgia was at number 4. Bryce Young at Alabama was number 6. Then in 2021, Bryce Young won the Heisman Trophy at Alabama. And we have 4 players represented from the SEC during that year, including Will Anderson, Matt Corral, goodness me, and Jordan Davis, defensive player, right? So that's 5, 7, and 9 behind Bryce Young. 2020, Devontae Smith wins the Heisman Trophy, first wide receiver to win that award since Desmond Howard at Michigan, and he didn't have to return no kicks to do it. And then behind him, we have 4 other SEC players. That's 5 of the top 10 finalists for the Heisman Trophy coming out of the SEC in 2020. Number 3 was Mac Jones. Number 4 was Kyle Trask. Number 5 was Najee Harris. And number 10 was Kyle Pitts. Really great year for the SEC, in a year in which I think Alabama put together one of the greatest seasons that we've seen, one of the best teams that we have seen, certainly in the modern era, but top 10, top 5 forever. And then I was taking a look at where the Heisman Trophy winners have come from over the past, 8 to 10 years. So the last time the ACC had a Heisman Trophy winner was Lamar Jackson in 2016. The last time that the Big 12 had one was 2018 with Kyler Murray. The last time that Pac-12 had one was 2022 with Caleb Williams. And then the SEC had one in 2023. But the Big 10 hasn't had one since 2006 in Troy Smith. And I thought that was going to be really interesting because, the Big 10 is going to produce a national champion. It's probably not going to produce a Heisman Trophy winner, right? Ohio State, Michigan. And then you'll take a look at who was winning, let's say, in 2014. And I want to say that is Marcus Mariota, but I'm going to check myself in real time here so that I make sure I get that one right, because I don't want to mess up giving Robbie Bosco's national championship to Steve Young again, which is something I did do, and I corrected in real time because I was able to look at this thing. 2014 is Marcus Mariota, right? Melvin Gordon behind him. And then we get to Amari Cooper at number 3. So even there, you've got a great example of what the SEC might show up and do. But when was the last time that we had a Heisman Trophy awarded where the top 10 finalists none of them came from the SEC? And it's actually 2005, the year that Reggie Bush won the Heisman. So Reggie's at 1, Vince Young, Texas at 2, Matt Leinart at 3, Brady Quinn at 4, Michael Robinson, Penn State, was at 5, A.J. Hawk, linebacker, Ohio State, was at 6, D'Angelo Williams, tailback at Memphis, he of the Ashton Jeanty kind, Drew Olson, quarterback at UCLA, was 8, Jerome Harrison at Washington State was 9, and Elvis Dumervil was there at 10. Elvis Dumervil was also kind of a monster. He had 20 sacks in that season at Louisville. I stupid. Just ridiculous what that guy was doing. But even a guy that had 20 sacks in a single season couldn't make it past 10 playing in what was still, considered a group of 5 league in the Big Ten at the time. And I'm just like, dog, what? Really? We're just never going to give this award to a defensive player ever, unless he's Travis Hunter and you're playing both ways, or it's Charles Woodson and you're playing both ways, but a pure defensive player is never going to win this award. So I made a list of players that I thought might be on anybody's Heisman ballot going down to the top 10, and I could continue to go, but I stopped short before I started adding some SEC players here. But the list looks for me like Travis Hunter, Dylan Gabriel, Cam Ward, Ashton Jeanty, Cade Klubnik at Clemson's really played well. Curtis Rourke, undefeated Indiana, best season they might ever have ever. Drew Aller, undefeated Penn State. They beat Ohio State, looks really great. Bryson Daly, the Ashton Jeanty that we have not been talking about, great Army quarterback. Shedeur at Colorado. Will Howard at Ohio State. They get this win against Penn State. You'll remember that he threw for 300 yards against a great Oregon team. And then you can get to Carson Beck, and then you can get to Jalen Milroe, and then you can get Garrett Nussmeier. But you could also continue to just ignore them if you wanted to and throw some other names in there. But I think this could be the first year where we don't see an SEC player in the top 10 of the Heisman balloting, and that is remarkable to think about. Will I think it holds? I don't know. Depends on what Jalen Milroe does against LSU, what Garrett Nussmeier does against LSU, and whether or not Marcel Reed comes on strong as A&M's replacement at quarterback. Or maybe Carson Beck can make us forget that he threw for 175 and 3 picks against Texas. I doubt it. Maybe Quinn Ewers has a ridiculous game against Arkansas later this year, or A&M, but I doubt it. Right now, it does feel like the guys that are going to get invited are mostly coming from the Big Ten, the ACC, and then it's like Army and Boise State. That's what it feels like. And Colorado. Colorado being Big 12, right? Also, if you just kept the Pac-12 intact, you could think about the Pac-12 perhaps having 2 of the last 3 Heisman winners, along with, keeping great company with the SEC. Just glorious fumbling of the bag by what was once the Conference of Champions and is now going to be the Conference of State Colleges.